To the September 4th, 2025 Newmarket School Board meeting. I invite everybody to stand up carefully so we don't yank our microphones off the table and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job, everyone. We got past the first test of the evening. Okay, so before we kick off this evening, I want to welcome our student rep to the school board for the 2025-2026 school year, Sawyer Hill, who takes over from Olivia last year, and look forward to hearing from you, working with you. Welcome, Sawyer.
Thank you.
Welcome, Sawyer.
Welcome forward.
Okay, so from there we will go to public comment. Are there any members of the public who would like to address any of our agenda items? If so, please come to the microphone. Going once, going twice. I will close public comment at 5:16. Not coincidentally the same time I opened it. Did any board members receive any public correspondence since our last meeting? Nope. Don't believe I did. Anything?
Nothing intended for public consumption.
Okay. Sounds good. Committee updates. I know there's been a few committees that have met.
So CIP committee will be meeting September 8th and September 10th at 5 and 6 p.m. respectively, and September 15th tentatively if necessary.
Okay, great.
And Superintendent Allen will be on the 10th if everyone wants to come out and support him.
The real star will be Dave Riley.
That's true.
Always. Any other committees?
Cafe, Todd, and I continue to the pair educator group on their collective bargaining agreement. So it needs to go well.
Sounds good. Budget committee?
Yep, budget committee met. We went over the school budget report, so not much to report. That would be new information for anyone here, but that was what we did.
Bruce Brown?
Yeah, Brian did great.
Awesome.
Yep, yep. Hats off to him. He had a great showing there.
Good. Any board comments before we move on? Seeing nothing. We have our inaugural student representative report. Sawyer, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So first I'll go over some sport. Is that too loud?
No, it's
No,
good.
doing great.
First, so for boys soccer, they had a game on August 28th against Moulton Borough, and they won 4-3. Then they also had another game against Concord Christian Academy yesterday, and they won 3-1. And then their next game is tomorrow at home at 5:30 against Profile. For girls, it's a lot of the same. On August 28th, they beat Moulton Borough 6-0. And then yesterday against Concord Christian Academy, they lost 1-0. And their next game is also tomorrow at 4 at home against Profile. For cross country, we had our first meet yesterday. It was the Jamie Martin Invite at Sanborn. Senior Magnolia Redmond plays 7th for girls. And then our next meet is Saturday at Demerit Hill Farm. Football, they have not started their games yet, but their first game is on the 13th against Somersworth at home. And then golf, which is new this year, has their first match against Oyster River on the 10th at Rockingham Country Club. And then I have just the other things I have to talk about are about the policies. Do you want me to wait?
Yeah, go right ahead.
All right. So first, it's personal devices. Overall, I think the phone ban has been beneficial. Obviously, there are a lot of people that, at least at the beginning of this year, are mad about it because they can't use their phones during school. But I was talking with Ms. Cole about it, and she sees a lot more social interaction, which I think is very beneficial. For example, a lot more games are getting checked out, like board games, which is a good sign. And then also there are a lot more books being checked out, which means people are not really being on their phones and actually doing their work. She also has seen a lot more people get their work done during her study labs. Laptops, there's been a lot of drama recently with the use of personal laptops. I'm not entirely sure where it's going, but we'll see. I think the biggest issue with the personal device ban is a lot of people come to me complaining how they can't listen to music. With our personal the school-issued Chromebooks, Spotify and YouTube are both blocked, and without the use of our personal devices, and the law technically says we can't even use headphones. A lot of people have come to me saying that they can't focus when they're in their study halls. I don't really have a solution to that. I don't know what we could do, but I just wanted to bring that up. For the new schedule, I think it's going well. It's taking a lot of time to get used to for teachers and students, but over time I think people will either like it about the same or maybe even more. And then the biggest thing that I've seen about all our new policies is hall passes. For benefits, it definitely does stop students from roaming the halls, but I think there are a few more negatives than positives with the paper hall passes at the very least. First, I feel like it's not really sustainable. In the first day I'm pretty sure we went through over 400 paper passes, which I know at the end of last year we had a paper shortage, so those two things don't really align super well. It's also, especially with the shorter class times, it's pretty disruptive for a teacher to have to stop class and write a pass every time someone needs to use the bathroom. And then I was talking with Miss Cole, and since she's in, a bit of a bigger communal space, she has had to write like 20 passes in the time span of an hour and a half, and that's just not really going good for her. It really distracts her from her actual work. So that's what I have to say about that.
Andy, I thought we were getting monogrammed toilet seats for everyone to use for hall passes.
I was going to say, in elementary school, we have these cute little laminated ones that the hall pass kids wear around their neck. None of the high schoolers would.
I kid about the toilet seats, but that is a pretty good observation. If we're going to be burning through paper left and right, then we probably should ponder coming up with a better system. So thank you for bringing that up. And I just re-emphasize, I guess, the device policy. I agree, there's some positives to it. Obviously, there are some drawbacks from people's point of view. Wasn't our idea. The state imposed that upon us. Not that I don't see some benefits in it, but it's something we'll continue to look at dialing in. The board approved that policy kind of under the gun because we had to have something in place for the first day of school, but I appreciate the feedback, and the policy committee, Jeff, Todd, and I will think about whether there's ways that we can adjust that a bit to uphold the intent of it without necessarily creating so many drawbacks. So thank you.
I guess did you consider the personal device ban included personal laptop? Is that what I'm understanding?
It actually specifically says
laptop.
including personal laptops, so it's like the law does cite it.
Yeah, interesting. I know performance in the public sometimes is questioned. Not only that, but the size of them, it's arduous for students.
Yeah, it's been, without going too deep into it, it's been an ongoing conversation, and we're looking for, again, you want to catch the spirit of the law, but you don't want to have too many negative consequences from the way we implement it. That is made more difficult by the fact that, like a lot of legislation in New Hampshire, it's a bit shoddily written and very open to interpretation depending on who's reading it. So we've done our best to use that latitude in a constructive way, but I think it's fair to say that we did that in a hurry, and
Work to do.
Yeah. We're continuing to look for opportunities to do it better.
Thanks.
And nice job.
Excellent.
Here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very
Update.
valuable feedback all around.
Thank you. Absolutely. All right. It's a tough act to follow, but it's the
I just
floor
actually
is
wanted to
yours.
start by saying I commend you for bringing forward multiple issues that are constructive criticism to help us get better, particularly in the area around the cell phone policy. To Dan's point, we adopted it because we had to have it in place. There are limitations that the law puts upon us, but there still has to be a local look at it. And certainly, in fact, I'll start there. Clearly one of the biggest areas of pushback that, Dr. Corman and I have heard has been around the whole personal device component. And I think to Dan's point, the law did not intend, I think, to ban personal laptops. I don't think that was where it was intended to be, but they wrote it so broadly that it did include a lot of things that it's going to be a challenge. I will tell you, I was at a meeting this morning with the regional superintendents groups, and we also had multiple legislators from around the seacoast. And the question was asked, well, what can we do to work better together? And my point was, is local control a thing anymore? Because local control means we decide, and it may or may not be what somebody in, I don't know, the North Country thinks. What Newmarket wants should be what Newmarket decides to do. And to some extent, we were forced in a way. That being said, we have carved out, and we'll talk about it at policy, and until we do, we are moving forward on what we're calling an expansion of the educational exception to allow students that have legitimate reasons to use a laptop to make their case to Mr. Corman, and then go through a process of approving it. And so he's been very devotedly having meetings with people, going through that. And I really want people in the community to know that while it is a frustrating bureaucratic process, the challenge to us, if we get challenged on not following the law, is going to be for us to be able to say we put reasonable mechanisms in place to follow the law. So even though that process of getting approval may seem a bit over the top, the truth is, if we follow the law word for word, we don't allow personal laptops. And what we're trying to do is to find a way to meet student needs. The earpods, that's going to have to be earbuds. That'll have to be something we'll have to talk about separately as a broader issue, but certainly it's all connected with personal devices. So anyway, clearly that's probably the biggest issue on the table as we open school. And while it has been frustrating for some, I would say, and I'm going to look for Andy to nod his head, but it hasn't been that bad, has it? Yeah, I'm sure he'll highlight it. But for the most part, we have a very cooperative student body. I think for the most part, parents understand it, and we're doing the best we can. But again, it's as Dan said, this was not something we sought out to do right now. I personally believe restricting access to cell phones and communication devices during the school day is a good thing in terms of eliminating distractions. That being said, there's a whole range of issues that come with a ban, and usually anything attached to the word ban has a negative effect on somebody, and I think that's the challenge. So anyway, enough said on, yeah.
What was the representative's reaction to the local control?
They kind of smiled and nodded. They're mostly Republicans in the room, and they were not, they were looking for, like, why are many school leaders so opposed to many of these things? And again, my point was not that I disagree with the notion of regulating cell phones in school. I just disagree with who's telling us to do it. And more broadly, if we're going to do a cell phone ban as a state edict, what other things are going to come that are going to erode the notion of local control, such as open enrollment, such as tax caps, such as at what point do we lose complete control? I don't believe they agreed with me politically, but I made my point.
Good, thank you.
So kind of backing up, obviously school started last week. I think overall it's been a very successful opening. You'll hear from both Sean and Andy in a little bit to talk about the specifics of the building level, but in my office, I measure it by, how many complaints did I get about buses? And Not too many. I mean, we did have a couple of buses that are still struggling to get their routes squared away, and I see Sean nodding. I'm sure he'll mention something about it. But overall, things have gone smoothly. I do want to commend the Department of Public Works as well as the local police department, DPW. As many of you know, there's been some road work on the Packers Falls and so forth, and that did have some impact, but they were very cooperative with letting us to get the buses through and keeping us somewhat on schedule, but I appreciated their willingness to do that. And the police department, they're always so wonderful. They were there on the first day of school. I'm going to mention Wayne first, but Gadget was there too, so it was fun. So the kids, I think, enjoy that. One of the things I did want to mention about the opening of school is overall our enrollment numbers are about what we expected. But there are a couple of surprises that I think drive Sean and I crazy. One is we have the highest number of kindergartners that we have had in 13 years. So, and last year we actually were looking at the number of kindergartners and saying, wow, well, maybe we don't need 5 classes of kindergarten. And we're thinking like but we have 88, right? 88? Yeah, 88 kindergartners. And I went back to the history books, and it was 2013 was the last time we had more than 88 kids in the kindergarten. So I don't know what that says. The other side is our pre-K numbers are way down. So I'm like, wait a minute, what is going on? Either we have more kids or we don't. So our pre-K numbers right now are 28, and we usually have 38. So it's just getting our heads around what is happening in preschool and planning for it is very challenging. Obviously, we'll get more projections from NESDEC, but your guess is as good as mine what's going to happen. I mean, that kindergarten number really caught us both by surprise. It's very high. It's wonderful, but again, it was very unexpected. So enough said on that. I did want to acknowledge something that I'm just so proud of the Newmarket counseling staff. I'm sure many of you heard about the very tragic events over in the Oyster River District. There was a quadruple murder-suicide over there. And one of the things that was very clear is that one of the victims was one of the mental health workers in the Oyster River school system. And so when you have a crisis like that, you turn to your mental health people to help everybody else through it. And it was clear that they were not going to be able to do it. And our entire staff, all of our counselors signed up and did shifts over there for a couple of days. And I cannot tell you, today I was at a meeting, and the Oyster River people were just gushing with so much appreciation that our people stepped up and did that. And I just think it really sent a very positive message. So thank you to all of our great counselors for taking that on. I think it was really a needed thing. And I think what it also said to Oyster River, we did it for them, they would do it for us too. I think that's really important. Dan and I have actually been talking quite a bit about events in the news lately. Particularly, you've probably heard about the Claremont school system, with the struggles that they're facing. For those of you who don't know, Claremont is facing a potentially up to $5 million budget deficit that they did not plan for. And it's come about very suddenly, to the point where they laid off 39 staff before opening school, and they were planning to eliminate all after-school programs, and there's a lot going on there. And one of the things that I always do when I see something like this in the news, I try to get an understanding of what is happening and try to look at what are the things that are happening there that led to this. First and foremost, they did not have an audit done in 4 years. Okay, so I think it's important to note that. As boring as it might be when the auditors come to present the audit findings to us, what that is it's an outside look at our finances to tell us whether we're doing things right or not. And so every year we get a laundry list of things we're supposed to do better, and then we immediately set to work improving them. So that's one thing that Claremont did not do. The other thing that I think is important is there are lots of, while getting federal grant money is a wonderful thing, there are lots of deadlines and things you have to do in order to access the money. And if you don't have people who are managing your grants that are paying attention to getting deadlines, you fall behind. And one of the things that happened to them, just like us, we got about $1.4 million in ESSER money 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And we meticulously tracked every cent and spent it all, okay? They unfortunately spent it all, but then after the fact were told, no, they weren't eligible expenses. You can't do that. And so they actually spent themselves into a deficit by spending money that they didn't have. So again, proper accounting practices, focusing on that. And then really, and this is just for the board's role is oversight of that. And I think I would encourage, like we do those quarterly reports, take the time to ask the questions, find out what's going on. Our goal as a district is to be as transparent as we can possibly be, but you're the eyes and ears of the community on that stuff, and if there's something in the manifest or something that is not quite right, ask about it, because I think what happened in Claremont was 4 years of people going, it'll be all right. Yeah, it'll be all right. And then 4 years came and they had a turnover of a superintendent, a business administrator that was struggling, and all of this stuff came to light. I would point out too that while Claremont has been in the news lately, there's also the Pittsfield school system that's facing many of the same issues. The only difference for them is they caught it earlier and they have been able to manage it better, but many of the same things came up there. They have a $1.8 million deficit that they're dealing with. That's why I'm pleased to say when we reported to the budget committee, we're telling you, hey, we're going to give back $512,000 to the community, and oh, by the way, we're all set on our retained fund balances, all of those things. So we are in a pretty healthy place, but I think anytime something like that happens, there's people automatically, in fact, this was one of the topics at today's meeting with the legislators, was one of the things that drives school districts crazy is when legislation gets passed that's about a single issue thing and it affects everybody. So for example, if you make a law that is directed at solving whatever happened in Claremont, but you make it apply to Newmarket, it may not be good for Newmarket. And I think that's often how people think. They see an example and they, okay, fix it for everybody. But the truth is, what happened in Claremont happens once every 20, 30 years in the whole state. It's not like it's happening all over the place. So anyway, we learned a lot from it, and I think it's a good thing. A couple of other things. I actually have a pretty long report tonight, Dan. I apologize, but hey, life is good, right? I did want to take a minute because it's come up multiple times. Open enrollment.
Oh, great, now you've done it.
What did I do? Oh, my nameplate.
Now we
Sorry,
don't-
I'm
now
still
we don't
Todd
know who
Allen.
you are.
For anybody who doesn't know who I am, I'm still Todd Allen. But open enrollment is a thing. It was signed into law by the governor over the summer. Open enrollment, for those who don't know, it's basically, it eliminates sort of the residency as sort of a limitation for what schools a child can go to, and effectively the new law goes into effect in January. There is a group, which I'm also a part of, that is trying to come up with some recommendations to give to the legislature for how to interpret the law. Because there are so many things.
Giving to the people who wrote the law how to interpret
Right,
the law.
well, they
That
hadn't,
makes
but
sense.
I'll be honest, they did not think about some very basic things. One is, again, going back to the notion of local control. You're basically creating a situation where a resident district is required to pay whatever another district tells you you have to pay because it's 80% of their costs. So it makes it very challenging to plan for. So we've been doing a lot of talking about how that's going to work. We don't have any solutions yet, by the way, but it's something to be aware of. And by the way, as a board, as we do budget development, we will have to have a line item in our budget to account for open enrollment. Your guess is as good as mine what that will mean. My recommendation would be we have a line that says nothing, just because the assumption would be as many kids leave as come in, and maybe it just washes out and we'll figure it out as we go. But the other variable which has gotten some traction is around the athletic realm and what it will potentially mean particularly at high school for athletics. If you don't have some really strong safeguards, that really good basketball coach that lives in a particular district who wants players to come play for them might be a draw in a particular district, and you got to really watch out. In the old system, you always had this thing called manifest educational hardship, which meant you had to have a really good reason to go to a different school. But now the reason is I want to. And so it's hard to regulate that and will that result in the 25 best soccer players in the state going to play for Portsmouth. And that's not very fair to the rest of the state, if you ask my opinion. So anyway, all of those things are being considered. The intent is to have some legislative meetings with various members of the legislature, trying to brainstorm who are the people that we need to get at the table to have this conversation. But yeah, it's a big thing, and I think the community members are starting to be aware of it, and it wouldn't surprise me if I get hit with a lot of requests as we hit the end of this school year.
Todd?
Yeah.
Real quick, so what will the legislature do with this feedback? They're not even in session right now.
Well, what they need to do is they need to we're trying to give guidance on the rules as to what, like definitions of things. And because the law is pretty vague in terms of what it does. It does a pretty good job of spelling out the cost structure, but it doesn't really do a very good job of spelling out everything else. It creates some requirements for districts to develop policies about it, but doesn't say what. It has some reporting requirements, but it doesn't tell you how. So yeah, there's just a lot of pieces, and the idea is eventually there's guidance that comes out with every piece of legislation that says here's what it means to follow the law, and we're trying to create that.
But does that come from the legislature or the courts?
Well,
School Board Association.
Well, it comes from lots of different places. I do think one of the things that I suspect is going to have to happen is future legislation is going to have to rein it in because it's unstructured. But yeah, basically the intent is to get as many people involved in as possible in hopes that sanity will prevail. And because I think you'll find when you talk to school leaders around the state, the notion of choice is a good thing. I don't think people are anti-choice. It's just I can't have it drain the bank account of the school district and have us get to the point of like what Claremont's dealing with. It's like, oh, we ended up having $500,000 in liabilities because kids left to go to other schools. Sorry, kids, there won't be a drama program, or there won't be a what. That's where people worry.
And starting in January is a really opportune time to do that in the middle of the school year.
Yes, because your budget's already developed and everything. Yeah.
So
It's
Todd,
not.
there's nothing that speaks of a residency requirement, like you have to be in the school for so many weeks before you can request to go to another
Those are
school
the kinds of
district?
things that need to be fleshed out in terms of how it's going to work. Like, for example, if a kid is living in Newmarket today, they move to Dover, when do they stop being a Newmarket liability and become a Dover liability, and how does Dover plan for it, and how do they know it, and all of that kind of stuff.
And it can impact homeschoolers that want to.
Well, a student who is currently homeschooled could say, gee, now that I prefer to go to Exeter, let's say, they could assert that desire, and under the law, they would be allowed to do that, and then we would be responsible to pay it.
80%, even though we hadn't gotten anything ahead of time.
So effectively, we'd be a student that we don't even have.
Yeah.
We're responsible to pay that cost for, yeah.
I guess
Possibly.
it's confusing to me because however poorly written, the law is the law. The fact that the legislature voices an opinion ex post facto, a court shouldn't take that into account. I hope their intention is to come back and layer more on the legislation to make it work better, but just because the legislature voices an opinion, that shouldn't have any binding effect on anything.
True. I mean, ultimately, the Department of Ed is the one that does the technical assistance. We've been told that they have no plans to provide any. And so what we're trying to do is to give something that says, tell us to do this. Because right now, it's a little bit of it will be a bit of a dog-eat-dog world out there if no rules are made prior to saying, okay, the doors are open, go where you want. So anyway, lots more to come. I don't have answers. All I have is questions, and that's pretty much what the committee has been talking about, is all the things that are like, has anybody thought about this? So that's just something to be aware of. A couple of other things, just real quick. I did want to mention, I think I mentioned this one to you guys a while back, but it goes into effect in January. A new law that it was actually passed in 2024, but it didn't go into effect until January 2026. But there are some reporting requirements budgetarily that we have to meet. We have to present, and it has to be posted in multiple locations in the district. We have to show the salaries of the top 4 paid administrators in the district over the last 10 years, and that has to be posted. We have to show the average salary of teachers over the last 10 years, and that has to be posted. And then we also have to show the average per pupil costs over the last 10 years, and that has to be posted. And it has to be posted prior to, it has to be right around the time that we have the public hearing, so it has to be available heading into deliberative.
They seem like very meaningful data points that are arbitrarily selected to illustrate specific things.
Well, I will tell you, the thing that is most frustrating from my perspective is the law specifically says you can provide no context. So you just have to give the data and so you can't say, well, gee, the cost of living in this town is, nope, sorry, I can't do that.
Double.
I can't tell you that. So we pay more in some towns than others because it costs more to live in some towns than others. And all of the data that they're asking for public record is on the DOE website. They already do it. The difference is we have to cull it and organize it and present it in a way that makes them happy. And literally the law spells out the size of piece of paper you have to print it on and where and how to post it. I mean, it's
Amazing.
It's one of those, I would argue
That's
it's
one word.
Yeah.
it's one of those gotcha kind of things. It's like trying to set up a situation where finding like, okay, you used the wrong font, therefore we're going to sue you or that kind of thing. So it is a little crazy, but we are going to do it. It's not a big deal. Again, it's public information. No issue with presenting the information. It's just the requirement of the doing it. I was reviewing this with Bryant because it's going to come out of his office officially, and he's like, "Yeah, I can do that. I know he can manipulate a spreadsheet with the rest of them, but it's just a silly requirement."
It's data that they have, they could pull, they could
Right, but they want
gather
to place
themselves, and they could put it on their own document, formatted the way that they want it, just by pulling it out of a database,
Right.
but they want to make sure someone
So
else
we
does
need to
it.
post it ourselves so the world can see it, and our
It's
community.
data that a very specific constituency would probably like to see and use against the school district
Right.
Yes.
during
Right.
budgeting season, is
Well,
what it is.
I do think the issue that they're trying to establish, I believe, is that SAUs are overpriced and they cost too much, and that's what's driving the cost of public education. And so if you establish the level of administrative salaries with what you're spending on students, there's going to be this
Do they restrict
juxtaposition.
what can go on the paper? Is it only those items, or can we put
You can only have,
special needs
you can only
costs
put
and-
2 charts on each page of paper, so you're limited.
Having solved every other critical problem facing the state.
But you could have additional you could have another piece of paper right below it that says.
So
Special
Todd,
needs
is there a
costs over the last
penalty
10 years.
if it's not done correctly?
We can be sued by individuals and be required to pay the court costs of whatever happens if we don't meet the requirement.
Magical.
Who votes for these people?
So
Maybe it will bring a large crowd to the.
so I'm going to close on a positive note because I brought the whole room down. For those of you who go to athletic events in Newmarket, you may have noticed that particularly for night events, the use of the lights is often a challenge. We have had, and I say we, Newmarket has had a contract with Eversource that basically involves an upcharge for the month for every time you turn lights on before 8 o'clock. So in the month of September, let's say, if we use the lights one time before 8 o'clock, there's an $1,800 upcharge attached to the electric bill for that month. What that historically has meant is, like last spring, Jamie Hayes was in this meeting, he said, last spring we had a couple of soccer games that were tournament games that lasted an hour and a half, and we paid $850 per game to have the lights on during the game. Now, obviously that's bad, and We had a meeting with some people from
That's in
Eversource.
addition to the hourly rate that they charge.
In addition
for
to the
lights,
hourly
yeah,
rate, yes.
Electric rate.
But what we have chosen, what Newmarket has chosen to do is to take that upcharge and just factor it into the rate for the
Sure.
whole month.
Yeah,
So basically, the first person to break the 8 o'clock rule is really nervous because they know that's going to make everybody pay more. So it's basically what it has been is depressing the use of lights. We have now arrived at a solution, and I'm told, we had a meeting, that it looks like they're going to change our rate structure, and it will reduce the cost by more than half of what we've been paying. So I'm hopeful that I'm going to hear from the town here in the next little while that the rate structure has changed, and maybe we can actually use the lights and not feel like we're being victimized by turning the lights on. So anyway, I thought that was a very positive development because it's been something that Jamie Hayes and I have talked about for the last 3 years. This is a ludicrous thing to have lights that you don't dare to turn on because if you do, you're going to get a ginormous upcharge. So looks like a solution has been
The
found.
rec soccer program too, we used to run that and it was always a big deal, so.
Yeah, yeah, and there are
That's good
actually, in the summertime, I'm told, I'm not usually there, but they literally will take a break at like 7:30, and when it starts getting dark, and they'll just take a break and wait until after 8 and then turn the lights on because it just doesn't make sense to charge yourself so much because it doesn't get dark until later. Why would you turn them on and have this giant upcharge? Anyway, solution for that is coming, and I think
great.
it's exciting. So.
Reminiscent of the nights and weekends minutes that you would have on your cell phone.
Oh, right,
That
right,
would be
right.
different from the other minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't there. I can't pass judgment, but I've worked in energy for 30 years. The idea that you would negotiate a time of use contract for outdoor lighting that makes zero sense.
Yeah.
Is it archaic?
No, it just doesn't exist.
So
It's archaic in the same way that unicorns are archaic.
I mean, to be honest, the challenge was
It
not...
just isn't a thing.
Yeah.
The person from Eversource that we met with was very quick to say, yeah, that's the wrong structure, you shouldn't be doing that. But the challenge we had faced was finding the right person to talk to,
Right.
that they could solve the
Yes.
problem for us.
Yeah.
So I think we finally found the right person, so I'm very excited about that.
Splendid.
Thank you.
And that's all I have.
Any questions for Todd before we move on?
I appreciate the explanation about the open enrollment
thank you.
because I was thinking that,
No, don't touch it.
I thought it was just in Trust School District. I thought it wasn't whole state. I didn't think it had passed for the entire state to be open.
Yeah,
I thought
it
it was
is.
just within school districts.
Well, it means any student in New Hampshire can go to any public
yeah.
school in New Hampshire,
Right.
and that's the challenge.
Provided they have to provide their own transportation.
Yes,
too,
that is a limitation.
Yeah.
Other questions? All right, now Principal Pine and Principal Corman are going to regale us with tales of the opening of school. So who would like to go first?
Good evening, how's everyone?
Good evening.
Hey, to kind of give some more cheerful news, I have to say the trend of Paw Patrol, Minecraft, and princesses are the backpack du jour this year. The little ones, and it's great to see. But no, we've had a fantastic first few days of school, the opening of school, even just with our staff. Very uplifting and a lot of energy for the staff spent time prior to the kids arriving into the building, doing professional development. We continue to work on our school growth plan with John Vanderalls and looked at as a learning community, what are our values that we want to use to guide us as we are instructing the children of Newmarket and working as a collaborative team in general. They also received professional development, I'm going to step away from the mic a little bit, professional development on the use of our My View writing program as well, and that was very well received. Patty Wands did a great job talking about our new teacher evaluation system that is in place for this year, along with our new professional development plan. So kudos to Patty for putting that on, but a very positive feedback from the staff about those professional development days. The really fun stuff started on August 26th when we welcomed in the neighborhood of about 481 students, counting our preschoolers into the building. They brought in a lot of energy, which is always great to see after a quiet time in the building. But it was met by equal amount of energy by the staff as well. The staff did a great job welcoming the kids, getting them to where they need to be. And, we had a few tears, but this year, not as many as I can remember in the past.
From the kids, right?
The administrators, a different story, but yes, from the kids. The kindergarten, they do typically continue with their staggered start, so half the kindergarten class showed up on the first day, half on the second day, and then they all came in on the third day together, which really helped with the transition into the building and getting them used to the routines of the kindergarten programming. Classroom teachers did a great job first couple of days working with their students, setting about the classroom expectations, rules, and talking a little bit about the academic expectations as well. This week is the first real dive into the academic piece for the kiddos, and it's going very smoothly, and we will continue to do so. We also had our first assembly this week. We do a monthly assembly with the students, and it was our monthly theme for the month of September, is responsibility. So we talked a little bit about responsibility with the students, community expectations for the students as well. We also did student shout-outs, and this year is something that teachers can send shout-outs to myself or Miss Milbury about students and what great things they are doing. So we recognize those students at those assemblies as well. So that went very well. Clubs are starting to fire up already. Cross country just started this morning. I cannot run with the kids, but they did a great job. We have garden club, art club. We also have a new club starting with Jen Cool-Casey and running a nature club for kiddos after school. Right now it's for grades 1 through 2. That is, she's working with the outdoor people from the PTA with the outdoor interest. So that's going to be an opportunity to get the kids outside. It's also going to be an opportunity for teachers potentially to go see how those clubs work and what sort of activities they can do, so we can start to bring that more, getting outdoors with the kiddos during the school day. Very exciting news is, believe it or not, Abraham Lincoln is going to grace our presence tomorrow. Thank you for the Newmarket Arts and Tourism Commission working in conjunction with us. The fifth graders are going to have an assembly with Abraham Lincoln. We'll run about 45 minutes tomorrow morning, and it's truly just let's visit with Abraham Lincoln and hear about his life story. So we're looking forward to that. And that is some of the really exciting things happening. Also, parents, if you're watching right now, September 8th is School Picture Day. That email went out to parents today as well, so please check your email. Finally, Todd did mention a little bit that we had some buses running late, but that seems to be smoothed out a lot. One of the issues was one of the drivers had to take some time off. That is our regular driver. So that bus now she's back. I'd like to say that we have the kiddos on the bus. We're dismissing at 3 o'clock, a little later than we have in the past, but it's working like clockwork. We're still getting the kids out by 3:15, 3:17 or so. We will be holding either parent information night or an open house sometime in early October. So parents and kiddos can come into the building and show what wonderful things they have done so far. In terms of cell phones, it hasn't been an issue. I'm going to be pushing into the fifth grade classrooms in particular next week to just talk a little bit more about the cell phone thing. And we have a few kiddos that have smart watches, which by the way the law is written, they can't have that as well. But messaging will go out to the elementary school parents again about that policy, so they're aware of that as well, so we can work in conjunction with them. But it's been a fantastic start of the year, and I really have to send out the kudos to not only my teaching staff, but to Brenda Collins and Linda Bergeron too. We got barraged with, I think, around 15 or 16 last-minute registrations into Newmarket Elementary School. A lot of them were in kindergarten. So as Todd said, historically, we've been on this up and down cycle. This year, we are at 88, which is, as Todd mentioned as well, is it's great to have it, and it was kind of a bit of a surprise to me, but the kids are in there, and they are doing a great job working with the teachers and the parents that are in their kindergarten program. So, fantastic school year so far. We look forward to coming in and sharing with you all the wonderful things we'll be doing this year as well.
And you and I spoke earlier today about the fifth grade ambassadors, so we'll get them on a regular schedule to come and talk to us.
Yeah, once they will be doing the student ambassador program again this year. Once we have that up and running, we will make sure we come in and they can share some of the wonderful things that are happening in our building.
You know, I was sitting here trying to do the math in my head when you talked about the last kindergarten class you had this size. That was your class, wasn't it?
Was it?
I think, if my math is right, because you guys are a big class by historical standards.
It was 2013.
13.
That was the last.
How old were you in 2000?
Which was 12 years ago.
I was 5 in 2000.
Yeah, it was your class then.
That's what I thought.
Interesting. Good math. Well, yeah.
The world is full of fun coincidences. Other questions for Sean?
I do have to say I have to compliment the bus company because my street is that particular bus, and we're waiting, and we know the bus driver quite well. She's wonderful.
Fantastic. Yep.
And we knew that it was a substitute bus driver, and it did get a little bit later, and I just called the bus company. They were so wonderful. They immediately checked in with the bus driver, got back, and she asked what our address was, and she said, okay, so it'll be like about 4 minutes. 4 minutes later, and it was helpful. We have a neighbor who had kindergarten. She did register way beforehand, I promise. And so it was, just helpful for her too to ease the mind, and I think and aside from that, they've been really impressed so far with their first few days. And then also my son doesn't tell me anything about what's happening in 5th grade, but he did tell me about Abraham Lincoln, but my daughter told me about the student shout outs, and in particular some kids that were shouted out. So I just think it's great that you have kids noticing that other children are getting acknowledged with this new, this new practice. So I think it's great.
Yeah, we have wonderful students in our building, and it's just really nice to recognize sometimes when the children do that extra step or extra mile, and sometimes it's very easy to acknowledge it there, but then that's it. Here we're highlighting it in front of the whole school so they can be acknowledged for it. Thank you.
Love it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you, Sean. Don't be a stranger. While Andy's getting organized, in the subway stations, they have that yellow thing on the edge of the platform so you don't stand too, I think we need that for the name tag. Yeah.
Well, we tend to jiggle our table.
So they all stay safe.
I saw Lonnie move hers back. I started looking.
Obviously, Andy, they're easily distracted. So.
It's that time of the night.
Look, folks, these are the things that don't always come through on camera when you're watching from home. This is just how conscientious this group is about not having our name plates end up on the floor.
Except for the superintendent.
We also had a great opening as well, our first 3 days with our staff. Our mantra this year is really just to hammer in our curriculum, all of our work, all of our time. We have a staff meeting next week, really focusing on our continued curriculum development, having really solid answers on scope and sequence, and tying those to the work we've already done on UBD Level 1, which is kind of the 35,000-foot view. This is more the daily, weekly, what am I doing as a teacher, unit-based approach, and really hammering that out for folks so they have a real good, clear understanding. The big thing at the high school level in curriculum, our friends in Concord continue to throw us curveballs. The biggest one is a 306 change, so our friends in English and social studies are rapidly working with some consultants and some help to essentially turn their programs and their offerings at the high school level upside down. In January, I'm going to come before you with a brand new course from our social studies department as a result of the work required by the 306s, and they are spending a lot of time both during the day, we're offering pull-out time to them to help develop that course. And that's just been a huge push, but we're all working under the umbrella of continuing to define and articulate our curriculum. We opened the doors on the 26th to a even 500 in the building, 283 at the high school, 217 at the middle school. It's been great. I will get to cell phones. I'm sure we'll spend some time on that. So non-cell phone related stuff. We do have a new high school schedule this year. Monday, Tuesdays, and Fridays is a 7-period day with about 55-minute courses. Wednesdays and Thursdays are longer blocks. And that helps a lot. And it's one of those things you have to live to get through, and it takes a little bit, and we're still in the adjustment. But before, we were on a red and black rotation, so you didn't know March 10th is a Tuesday. Is it a red day? Is it a black day? Is it a snow day? What's happening? And everything would shuffle. By having an actual standard schedule, I can tell you Tuesday, March 10th at 9 o'clock is second period, regardless of what happens, right? And it allows planning, it allows us to coordinate internally and utilize our resources better. And then anytime you have an outside entity, it is always frustrating to be, Dan, I'd love to have you come in and talk, but it's going to be either Wednesday or Thursday. We're not sure, and I won't know until 2 days before. The real world doesn't work like that. So we needed to standardize that. And a lot of high school conversation on what we needed and how to get there. And we came up with this happy medium here, where on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays, every student sees every class. And then on Wednesdays and Thursdays, they have that 93-minute experience where they can dive more into your lab work, your performing arts folks, our culinary folks, really spend more time with that. And Sawyer mentioned it is new, it's an adjustment. I will tell you, our middle school friends did a similar transition. They had a schedule change last year, and it took about a month. I was not the most well-liked person by our middle school staff till about October 1st last year, where all of a sudden it clicked and they got it. I'm fingers crossed my high school staff is going to be the same way this year. But so far, so good with that. We additionally, every day last year, lunch was the bane of my existence. Essentially, we ran three lunches in this building every day and tied myself and the other administrators up to a standstill from 11 to 1 every day. And it caused a lot of confusion and chaos for us. It was hurry up and get work done before 11, or it's an after 1 o'clock problem, because we were literally in this space for 2 hours managing kids. We're not big enough that we need 3 lunches. It doesn't make sense. So we streamlined it, and as part of the schedule adjustment, we now offer 1 high school lunch. We've always offered 1 middle school lunch, and it has saved us personally about 65 minutes a day where I can get back to doing things that aren't lunch duty. To accommodate that, we opened up additional spaces for both middle school and high school. We have the library open. We have additional classroom space that we've dubbed quiet space. So if this isn't your feel in here because it's loud and it's crazy and you need a quiet space to kind of hang out with a group of friends, we've got additional classroom spaces around the building. And we obviously then use the courtyard, which we've spent a lot of time and money and energy on. It was 85 degrees out there today. Kids were just lounging around at lunch. It was a great experience. That's helped move kids, because there's always the concern of, okay, how many kids can you fit in here? 283 high school kids is tight. Be honest, we never ever are going to have 280 in here. We have students that leave for SST. We have the additional spaces. I'd say today we had probably about 175 students in here, and then others were spread out throughout the building. By having 1 lunch coupled with no cell phones, you see kids, God forbid, actually talking to each other and having conversations, and some of the feedback is exactly that. Kids are laughing, kids are talking, kids are pulling up next to each other, and how was class? And they're not, I don't know what to do, but you're on your phone, so I guess I'm going to be on my phone. And that's what high school lunch was last year. And it was quieter than it is now in here sometimes during lunch, because kids were just so focused. That's not the case anymore, and we're actually really proud of that. So from a structural change, those are some of the big things. We have 2 new staff members this year who are new in position, but not new to us. Jeremiah Holton is our long-term sub in high school English. He filled in for maternity leave for us last year. He's teaching sophomore English. And Jacob Zerker is a high school math teacher and a middle school math interventionist, role he had last year, and he's transitioned to the teaching role. So new positions, but not new people, so it's been really easy getting them into the flow of things. Just some quick highlights. The middle school team spent specifically 6th grade, spent a lot of time going down to 5th grade, and probably starting in March last year and finding out the transitional differences between a fifth grade experience for kids and what we were expecting, and a lot of oohs and ahs happened in terms of, oh, that's why they do that, or oh, that's, so sixth grade really took it upon themselves this summer to really change how they are accepting our former fifth graders, now sixth graders, into the building. In terms of having kids move less, having teachers move more, rather than having 20 kids keep rotating between classes. We have longer periods of time as a transition to model some of the stuff Sean's been doing at the elementary school, and it's made marked improvement just from a student perspective, from a teacher's perspective. Things are happening at a quicker pace in terms of their assimilation to the building, because we've eliminated some of those classic barriers. So instead of having English, then history, then science and math, we're going to slow it down, and we're going to have English and history for an hour or so, and the teacher is going to move, and we're going to slow, and then they built a break into the middle of their morning to allow sixth graders to take a deep breath and go, how are we doing? When they have to go to Spanish, the Spanish teacher comes down and goes, all right, you're coming to the other side of the building, let's all come on up. We coach them to, hey, you're going to a UA right now, make sure you have all your stuff, let's do a locker check before we leave, to just help the kids with that transition. It's a new building, they're stressed, they're anxious. Teachers are going out of their way to really help them in that process. And Saturday, we have the 50th anniversary of the class of 1975. They're going to be in here from some building tours. We have some student council kids doing some tours for us, and word has it that you guys were making banners today, I believe, upstairs. Next week, middle school starts their first round of iReady, and homecoming is set for the week of the 21st. With the 21st, which is a Sunday, we'll have our community bonfire across the street. Fire department already knows, don't worry. We're really excited about that. So those are the non-cell phone related things. Do we have any questions about that?
Questions for, I had one, oh, go ahead.
You probably know that the governor has put out multiple notices about starting school after Labor Day.
Yes.
I would like to get your input on that.
Sure. Personally, I personally think it's a political stunt. It gets people excited. I think starting school a few days before Labor Day is a good transition. Having kids here Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then having 4 days off, we work the kinks out, be it buses, we have the same bus problems, schedules, we give the opportunity for folks to run through the system. Tuesday, everyone had the full schedule, we ran our 2 block days. We saw some things on our side that we wouldn't have been able to figure out. And then it allows folks to take the Labor Day deep breath. I know as a parent of a new kindergartner, that's exactly what we did okay, we got through a couple days. What works, what doesn't, we got to be a little more prepared, or this was over-prepared. I think if you wait until, as the governor suggested, after Labor Day, you hit the ground running, and there's not a deep breath moment for kids, for families, for staff until Columbus Day. At that point, you're 6 weeks in, and patterns and behaviors are set. I think for lack of a better phrase, the free look of the 3 days, 2 days, whatever, before Labor Day, is really valuable to schools and teachers to get kids and faces and names going. I think if you wait afterwards, you're going, and I think anyone who spends some time in the classroom, you want to make sure you set stuff up right, and if there's tweaks that need to be happened, I think before Labor Day, it gives you that opportunity. Waiting till after Labor Day, like I said, you're hoping to get to the middle of October to make that change. So that's just my personal opinion, but.
Well, as a former teacher that started ahead of time, I found the same thing, so I just wanted to see if I wasn't having a personal bias.
Yeah.
That,
I just think it's huge, and I would prefer it that August, 26, 27, whatever, is a great, in my mind, a great start of school opportunity.
Yeah.
If I could add a student's perspective, I completely agree. It's great to have a 3-day week and then a 4-day weekend and then a 4-day week to ease into the school year.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. And of course, I was in a district that had the hockey fair, so we couldn't go on Friday.
Fairs throw everything off.
So we had 2 days and then a day off and then weekend and then 3 days. It was perfect. Thank you.
So the 2 block days in the week, are those still on something similar to what we called red-black last year?
No, so it's kind of odd. In my head, it's odd even. This is what happens when you get deep into the schedule build. Wednesday, so it's a 7-period day, periods 1 through 7. Wednesday is, in my head, it's an odd block day, so we do periods 1, 3, or 1 advisory, 3, period 5 meets every day, because it's a shortened period, and then 7 and the day's over. Thursday, 2, advisory, 4, 5, 6.
All right, so what will we do, like with the red-black system, if you had a snow day, you always came, when you came back,
Yep.
however long that
Yep.
was, you were on to the next day in sequence.
Yep.
How will that work with snow days this year?
We're not going to have any. We're going to be out of school. The day is the day, and that's when we met with 9th, 10th, and 11th, and 12th graders, just to kind of give them the overview, and we said, snow days on a Wednesday, tomorrow's a Thursday, you're starting off with block 2. The ability to say this is the schedule and it is set, prioritize everything in my mind over shuffling and finagling on. I worked in districts where you have a system of it's a snow day on a Monday, here's the 2-week window, and that's unnecessary. It's easier just to come out and say, hey, if we have for example, we have a holiday on a Monday, Tuesday's a Tuesday. We have in November, you have the election day, it's a Tuesday, right? So your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday becomes a block day. We don't shift, and it's locked and set to allow us to, in my opinion, just better plan and better operate.
And actually, the wild card is whether or not you get a bunch of snow days on a Wednesday or something like that.
Yeah.
And obviously, if that is happening, you can make an adjustment on the other end to say, okay, we're going to do 2 consecutive, or whatever you need to do to adjust to make sure that the instructional time is roughly equivalent.
Don't get Sawyer and I excited. You pointed out a whole bunch of snow days. That is the case, yes. We could obviously make the
Just
adjustment.
wondering how it's going to work.
Yeah. Fairly legit.
Yep.
I would just point out that I really like the forethought that you've put into the transitions that kids are going through in the district, and I hear that also come through in your position on when to start the school year, and that's such a very important thing to think about. So I love hearing that.
Thanks.
Other questions for Andy?
You guys want
All
to do
right,
cell phones?
how would you guys like to go through the
What are cell
building?
phones?
Oh, that's right.
You guys want to do cell phones?
He's got a whole second book.
I got a whole.
To blow right by that.
I think you can take your cue that they're not concerned about it, but
All right, I'll give you the quick, easy then. I would echo what Sawyer said, it is generally well received. I've had 3 students anonymously come up and say thank you. They're just generally appreciative of it. Uniform enforcement across the building has been key, 7:35 to 2:30. You'll see posters around, it's off and away. Not interested in patting kids down or searching, treat students as professionals and treat them as young learners and provide that opportunity to keep your phone off and away. As of 4 o'clock this afternoon, we had 11 first-time warnings, all at the high school. And what that means is the teacher sees a device out, and the protocol on that is the teacher goes, hey, Mr. Allen, you got to put your phone away, puts it away. I provided a template email. It's just plug the kid's name in, send it home. It's, parent, your kid had their phone out today. Just want to let you know it's against our policy. There's no further consequences, just to let you know. One of the 11 has reached the second level, and he completely owned it. It was like a 100% honest mistake. The second level means it's an administrative consequence. We take the phone. He owes us 30 minutes after school. Mom or dad have to come and pick it up. He did that on Tuesday. And the child was unbelievably apologetic and knew instantly and didn't put up a fight at all. So all in, we're 6 days in, we've had 11 offenses. This is a high school-based issue, and there's just size of the problem is always important. 280 kids, 11 of them, one of those 11, it is that second level offense, and before I got the words out, I'm sorry, I know, it was my mistake, it was just force of habit, I know I have 30 minutes, can I do my homework? This is going to be the easiest detention I've ever had. Personal devices. So you guys are talking about this. This has been an interesting approach for us. So when we talked to the high school, we mentioned it to them and really hammered it in with our juniors and seniors, because that's where most of this is happening. So I offered and said, hey, if you think, so I go through the law, and so I heard this spiel I think yesterday or today. The law says no personal devices. We recognize that sometimes you need something to access your education, and we want to find an opportunity to have that. So here's an opportunity for you, student, to advocate to me why you think you need the device beyond the Chromebook we provide. So kids come down, it's a 10-minute meeting, and they explain why they need it. And it ranges from specific SST coursework that's not aligned with our Chromebooks, VUX not being able to keep up with our Chromebook. We have a student taking ALS on VUX, and her example was pretty straightforward. It's ASL, excuse me. You need to be able to see the hand and hear the audio, and our processing computer would not keep up. So she was, absolutely, you can't learn the language if the words and the pictures don't line up. AP coursework, and we have several students doing some in-person and online work at Great Bay and SNHU. A lot of their programming requires an additional computing power that our Chromebooks just aren't capable of. So what happens is the kid comes in, explains themselves, and says, here's what I'm interested in. I make a determination and say, yep, that meets my threshold for an exception to the policy. I provide them a form, it's the bring your own device form. The tech did a great job creating it. Essentially outlines the bring your own device policy. Generically, it says, don't be bad, don't be naughty, don't try to take down our internet. Please make sure your computer's updated. The form goes home with the child signs it, a parent at home signs it, it comes back. And at that point, then I turn it over to tech and they reach out if they need be. I've described it as that is the golden ticket when we start to have infrastructure changes to our Wi-Fi, that will allow your device onto our software, or onto our system. To date, I've had 15 meetings. I've granted 14 exceptions. I have 2 more tomorrow. And the extreme majority of them are coursework related. There's a few medical and IEP, but the majority here are what I would categorize as advanced coursework for kids that our devices just aren't capable of doing for a variety of different reasons. After school, I talked to Jamie around athletics. Absolutely no issues at all. He front-loaded the coaches at the coach meeting in August. Coaches shared their approach with their athletes, and after-school activities is in the same boat. After school is pretty easy because the bell rings and kids can kind of do whatever. But Jamie's point is, you're not out there practicing running around on your cell phone. You never have been, you never will be. It's pretty straightforward. We are here to participate, play the game, do whatever it is we need to do. Then if you're up in the North Country and you're on the bus, yeah, absolutely, you can take your phone out then. But Jamie's approach, and this is, we never had an issue in athletics around this. We appreciate it, and we've frontlined it to our coaches, and athletes have heard it, and we haven't had issues since August 15th when the season started. So, just to follow up on my friend Sawyer here, we did not write 400 passes. We printed them. We had teachers come down and get them. We certainly, and there is, believe it or not, and environmentally, yes, there is concern. There is a reason why we went passes, and Sawyer, talking to Ms. Cole, explained her annoyance. We had a period last year, we had a 30-minute period with over 45% of our high school students out of class because they were just leaving and there was no checkmate to the teacher to say why. I'm asking teachers to do it because exactly what Ms. Cole said, it is an annoyance. If I don't, Dan asked me 14 times to leave. No, Dan, I need you to be here. We got to finish this thing up. Sooner or later, Dan's going to stop asking. If it annoys me that I have to keep writing passes, I'm eventually just going to stop and the students are going to remain in class. So there is some deep second-level psychology going on here of we want to keep kids in class, especially on the Monday, Tuesday, Friday. Class is 55 minutes. It's quick, it's there, you don't need to leave. We've told teachers it's okay to say no, just hang on for a minute. I want to complete what we're talking about here. But the idea is, yes, and to hold students accountable, they're neon green, we can see them a mile away, but also to hold teachers accountable of why is this student not in your class. We have not found a single student in the hall yet without a pass, and that's 612. The environmental concerns and obviously the financial are there, but we can strategize and come up with some alternatives, but the reason we're doing it is twofold. The accountability from the kid and the teacher, and we at our core have to believe when a kid comes through that door and they're in class, good things happen. Do everything in our power to keep that kid in class, and if it's an annoyance to the teacher and the kid doesn't want to keep asking, lo and behold, the kid stays in class and learns. That's kind of the takeaway. Yeah, that's passes, that's exceptions, and cell phones. That's the whole shoot
I'm
match.
telling you, there's no disincentive like carrying a toilet seat.
I know.
So, see how long?
Sawyer's What did I sign up for?
There you go.
Sorry about that.
You're just the messenger.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
He's doing his job.
Other questions or brilliant ideas to share with Andy?
Brilliant ideas.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda, we want to go over the school district and the building level goals for
Yeah, so
the
just
school year.
just to remind everybody that both buildings developed growth plans, and they were presented to you in detail last summer, August of 2024. And what we do is annually, we review them and we determine what the focus areas are. So that's where this all comes from. And so the district goals, we work together as a leadership team over the summer to take a look at all of the various initiatives and to try to put some focus around what we were trying to accomplish as a school system. Keep in mind that these are the same goals that were given to our teachers as part of the professional growth model that they're going to use to set their own goals. So the 3 district goals we've set are largely continuations of things from the past, but they're articulated a little differently. Advanced learner-centered instruction and competency-based learning. Andy mentioned the 306s. There's a lot of things that we're going to have to do structurally that are going to involve looking at competencies and making sure our course structure and competencies align with the new state minimum standards. And that's part of that. I do also want to point out, because I know one of the first conversations I think I had with Lonnie was regarding the report cards. And there is a report card committee doing a deep dive at the elementary school to say they're going to be coming to this board at some point in the near future, hopefully before the first report card needs to be issued, to have a report card that aligns much better with what we're doing. Because in the last couple of years, we've adopted 2 different programs, but the report card hasn't changed. So anyway, there's that. Second goal from the district, cultivate a positive and inclusive school learning culture. That came through loud and clear in a lot of the stuff that we were talking about as we looked at trying to do that for students at the building level, but also trying to do it collegially for colleagues. You'll hear, you've probably heard me say it many times, the word collaboration. It's like such a critical component. And so at all levels, we're trying to really work on creating that sort of inclusive culture. And then the other piece is 2 years ago, we adopted a vision of a graduate. And so trying to say, okay, now we've got this great document, let's start and really deep dive into how this is manifest throughout the program. So those are the big picture things from the district perspective. At NES, you can see they have established, I believe, 3 goals. In fact, both Andy and Sean wanted me to highlight, they do have one that they're calling their priority goal, like it's the thing that it seems to be the heaviest focus, which is not to say the other things aren't important, but it's just the thing that is really driving a lot of the work. At the elementary school, their priority goal is they will continue to refine the implementation of the MTSS structure and PLC model to support school-wide collaboration and student-centered instruction. You've heard us talk at many occasions about MTSS. MTSS stands for Multi-Tiered System of Support, and both buildings have pretty well-developed systems to track student growth and to make sure that we're providing the interventions kids need to be successful. And so at NES, that's really, they're really taking that piece to heart, and that's really a big part of a lot of the conversations they're engaged in. So it's actually been inspiring. In fact, one of the things that is very telling, you go over to the elementary school and the morale is just so high, because I think people feel like what they're doing is important. And I think it's just exciting to see. So in this PLC model, which I've seen it launched and not be successful at times, PLC stands for Professional Learning Communities. And the idea is to have these groups that form educationally around key topics to find ways to improve, and they are really embracing it, and it's just exciting to see. So they're focused on that. Goal 2, really focusing on our student growth and mastery of essential skills. Again, remember I talked to you about the 2 new programs. We've got the iReady model, really trying to make sure that all of our kids are making growth and making sure we're paying attention to it. And oh, by the way, next board meeting, Patty will be in to give you a summary of sort of how we ended the last year with some of the data, because the state just today released the state level data, so that's helpful. And then the third goal at the elementary school is the enhancement of the culture of student-centered school, the development of our mission, vision, and values. You'll hear both Andy and Sean talking a lot about developing personalized mission, vision, value statements in all the different aspects of our program, and it really helps to root the work. You kind of go back to, why are we doing this again? Why is this important? And I think it helps educators really be able to answer that question. There's nothing more scary than to be in a situation where someone's asking, why are you doing that? And to not have an answer for it, other than, well, I teach math, that's what I do. You want to be able to explain the why, and so I think that's really important. So that's the elementary school. Again, these are all things that were already articulated. They're just doing a deeper dive and sort of fleshing that out. And then the last section I'll just quickly review with you is the junior senior high school. They have 5 total goals, but their priority goal is, hold on a second. Their priority goal is to develop and sustain a school-wide curriculum that provides consistency, depth, quality, and accessibility for all students. You heard Andy talking about a lot of the work that is going to go on this year, particularly aligning with the 306s, but it's also looking at what are we teaching and how do we know when kids have learned it, and all of those kind of conversations. So there's a lot of work that Andy and his team are going to do around mapping all of that out. And also kind of something that, Jeffrey, you pointed out about the transitional stuff. There's a lot of conversation about how to make the transition from 5th to 6th grade work better, and from 8th to 9th grade work better, all of those kind of things. And a big part of that is in mapping out the curriculum experience that kids are going to have. And not for nothing, it is one of the things that NEAS said, you need to do that. And so we are doing it because we want to, but also because it's a standard of NEAS. Goal 2, fostering a positive and collaborative culture. Again, as I said, you'll see that across the board. That's characterized by cohesion, morale, caring, respectful, and trusting environment for all. And again, it's not just kids, it's for teachers, it's everybody, trying to create an environment in the school where people walk in and say, I want to be here, and I'm getting something from it. And some of that will come from some of the changes that we make in the academic experience that we offer to kids. But as you can see, there's a number of measurable things that they're working towards there. Goal 3, enhance student achievement and growth through innovative and effective instructional and assessment strategies. Andy's had, over the last couple of years, he's had these various, I won't use the term PLC because people don't, some people don't like that term, but they're called think tanks at the high school, but they are very much these groups of teachers driven by areas of concern and interest that they have, and they're really diving deep into solutions. The cell phone group was one example that clearly provided a lot of benefit. But so that structure, and it's not just about the product of the work, it's also about the process of the work. And one of the things that Andy and I talk to people about a lot is just because he or I are in the room doesn't mean we're going to have the best idea. And I think sometimes there's this idea that, well, administration will fix that. And it's like, we're here to tell you that no, we won't. Not without your help and not without everybody on board. And so I think those kind of conversations are really helpful. And I think that's starting to show in some of the product that we're seeing in the school. Again, we mentioned the vision of a graduate as a district thing, but in conjunction with the vision of a graduate, develop and embrace a school mission, vision, and core values and beliefs about learning to enhance student experience. It's really about saying, okay, we've got all these things we say we want kids to do. How are we making it happen? And how do we know when it's happened? And how will kids know when it happens? So if we want kids to develop strong communication skills, okay, that's fine. That's a good thing to do. But where is it happening, and how is a student going to know, okay, I mastered that, and I did well at that. So they're working on that. And then lastly, and this is something I got to give Andy a lot of credit for, analyze and adjust current operational procedures and systems in order to better meet the needs of students. I mean, one of the things that his team is constantly doing is asking questions about not just, is this the easiest way for adults to manage it, but is this the best way to do it so that the environment here is one where kids feel respected and they can get the experience they want to have, and I think that's a really exciting thing. So anyway, those are the goals that we as a district are primarily focused on this year. Obviously, there are lots of things that come up, and so just because something's not specifically articulated doesn't mean we'll say, I'm sorry, clean bathrooms is not one of our goals, we're not doing that. Clearly, there are a lot of things that are important, but these are the priority areas that we're focused on.
If everybody had their own toilet seat, they could.
It wouldn't be a problem, it's true. It could be their pass at the same time.
I promise I'll be off that by the next meeting.
And while I'm on the subject of goals, I was reminding Dan, one of the things that got lost in the shuffle this summer is I haven't presented my goals to you yet. So next meeting, I promise I will bring my goals to you and we'll have a conversation about that, because obviously that ties into the evaluation that you guys do of me every year.
So I have a question on the last page, the bottom two. 1/4 of the students leave daily to attend SST, and then the next says, find ways to keep kids here. Are those two aligned, or are those two separate issues?
Well, I think one of the things that we have discovered, and I don't know if you want to step up and speak to that, Andy, but he has collected data, which is it's interesting. Just go ahead.
We have historically had the equivalent of a high school class of kids that leave this building every day to go to SST. And that is incredibly challenging to run an operation when you've got 60 kids leaving, never mind the obvious financial component of the tuition to each one of those kids. So it became clear to me of like, okay, what's going on? You start talking to them and finding out why. And the range of answers is all over the place. Sometimes it's, I'm sick and tired of Newmarket kids because it's a small school and I want to go somewhere else, or I want to try something different, or I'm just really don't want to do this anymore. I want to try. So I can't invent new people, right? And I can't have a welding shop or an auto shop. It is what it is. But are there ways that I can find opportunities for some kids to stay here? 6 out of our 10 top 10 last year were out of this building half the day at SST for things like digital design and health sciences. If we have a genuine need from a population of kids that we're not serving, are there ways we can tweak our course offerings here to keep them in the building? One, straight up financially, it's going to save you money, each kid. Secondarily, operationally, it makes my life easier when I have a pool of 50 kids that want some courses versus 5. But finding ways to keep them here and meet their interests and getting creative. We adjusted the schedule. We adjusted how many credits they need. Are there ways that a kid can find an ELO and have an opportunity junior, senior year that is not necessarily just go to SST, but I'm kind of interested in physical therapy. Normally I would have gone to SST for the health science program, but it's not really what I'm interested in. Great, stay here, let's work with what we have. Can we pair you up with someone in the community to have you go out for an hour or two a day and with a physical therapist and live it and breathe it and go, wow, that's exactly what I want to do, or oh God, no, I'm no interest in that. That's what we're trying to think about, and finding opportunities to bluntly keep kids in the building by addressing what they're telling us they're interested in. It is astonishing to me when I looked at it over the last couple of years that a quarter of my high school population leaves every day. The only time I have everybody here is between 9:30 and 11:15. That's not okay. How do I keep those kids who have interest here, and what are we offering to make sure that happens, and what opportunities can we provide through a lot of different means? That's what that essence of what that goal means.
And to be, I mean, clearly the SST programs are great programs for kids that access them. It's not a judgment about that. No. It's more when we talk to kids, a lot of them are saying, well, I'm going there because I just need something different. I want a different kind of experience. I don't want more of the bell rings, go to math, bell ring, that kind of, they're looking for something. And if there's a mechanism we can create, which I think we know there is, we just got to figure out how to do it, that might cause kids to make different choices, not taking choices away, but it might cause kids to say, actually, I would prefer this option over here, and I can take a college course, or I can do this and still get some of the need that I have met. Yeah. And I think there was that demographic of kids in the SST world that were saying, like, I just need to get out of here. I mean, and if that's the reason, you have to ask yourself, what's the push that's pushing them out? And some of it is structural. What can we do structurally to make it more engaging for them. And I think that goes to the environment you're trying to create.
Yeah.
Does that answer your
Yeah,
question?
so it's kind of like extended learning opportunities.
Yeah,
right?
finding ways to keep kids invested
Right.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, and segueing off of that, I feel like I'm seeing it a lot with this year's senior class. There's just an awful lot of folks who have run out of things to do within this building. A significant number of them, I'm sure, have come into this year only needing 2 or 3 or 4 credits to graduate because we reduced the requirements. And I think this is an unintended consequence that we didn't probably give enough thought to as a board, as an administration, at whatever level you want to look at it, that I in my own head, I feel like I probably thought, well, ELOs are going to step up and play a big part in this. I thought maybe dual enrollment was going to step up, and those are playing a part in it, but also I get the distinct impression just from from interacting with other parents my kids are seniors, and interacting with other parents in the class, that it's a fairly ubiquitous problem that they get there and like, well, okay, what do I do now? I'm not really interested in, pick your slightly fringe elective. I don't want to take that just to have a reason to be in the building for 50 minutes longer. I'll just, take my leave at lunchtime, and that's that. And hey, if that works well for somebody, I'm not judging the intention behind it, but if it's strictly just a matter of it's something they're doing because they've run out of something else to do, then that probably means we could do better. At least that's the way I'm thinking about it.
Well, I think historically what has happened is we have created courses to put kids in.
Yeah.
And so that led us to like having an astronomy class with 3 kids in it, things like that.
Yeah, I closed a course today that have 2. So
Yeah.
this isn't an appropriate use of resources.
So it's sort of shifting the paradigm. I mean, in fact, one of the exciting things that one of your staff members is looking at is that sort of a junior project with English, and being more interested in a project-based or issue-based approach that's not necessarily, here's a class that you go to and there's a teacher that teaches this one subject. It's an opportunity for you to go and learn something you're excited about. And I think ELOs are partly that, but then you also have independent study opportunities, things that we can create that you don't have to create a whole new class for. You just got to figure out how to channel it and give kids an opportunity to do it. And my observation, and you live with the high school all day long, my observation is we have kids that are really intellectually curious, and if you give them a direction and an opportunity to do something they really find pretty interesting, they're going to do some amazing things.
I agree completely. I feel like maybe we didn't think this through far enough is if that's what we're doing, if that's the desired end goal of reducing the credit requirements like we did, we got to commit to it.
Yeah.
And we've got to highlight it, and it should be somebody's major objective to say, I'm going to create X number of new ELOs or independent research projects by next year.
I do think one of the things that has now changed, keep in mind, this is the first year we've moved from the 8-block structure. We've now changed the structure of the day to a 7-period system, which effectively reduces the number of academic periods, so that becomes less and less a variable that's of concern. Like the concern is kids having unstructured time with nothing to do, and it's not actually engaging and rewarding. I think the structure lends itself to a new organization, and I think your teachers, in fact, based on the goals, that's one of the things you're going to spend some time this year wrestling with is, what is the structure we need to put in place to capitalize on that?
To try to find that, and I would say the structural change, you reduce your opportunity to earn credit by 12%.
Right.
From 8 to 8 to 7.
It'll catch up to an extent.
Oh, yeah,
you've got
it's a
like a
bubble.
senior class right now who had an 8-period schedule for the first 3 years. So
Many of them have
and
22,
Yeah.
23 credits
Right,
walking
there-
in.
I mean, I got a letter in the mail saying I only needed to take English this year to graduate, so.
Yeah, finding ways to.
so you're going to come up
engage
with some good
There's
ideas
a
for
time-
the administration and
there is a timing aspect to it. It's
Yeah.
just something that probably needs more thought than at least we've given it in my 3.5 years on the board, I feel like. The other thing, I liked when you said, how will we know when it happens? And it's like anything, you manage what you measure what you manage, if you're doing it right. I would challenge, I guess, everyone as you think about your goals to also think about how people outside these four walls will know that it's happening, that we're succeeding in these dimensions that we've laid out. And that's obviously about more than just, you can come and present to us and all 8 people who watch at home will see it. And maybe I'm flattering this by saying 8, but.
I'll check if you want.
Is that cumulative per month, or is that
We
today?
get a lot of views on YouTube.
But, I mean, there's a few places that I think of where the good work that we do to challenge kids and motivate them and have them achieve, where the rubber really hits the road on people understanding that outside of these four walls, grading, report cards. I love that the elementary school is rethinking their report cards, because it has been a little, difficult. Even back when my kids were in elementary school, it was just challenging to read because of the amount of content there and the organization thereof. At the high school level, I think that challenge morphs a little bit to being just a lack of consistent feedback or consistency across instructors as to the feedback they're providing. And if you want people to understand that we're doing something different and new and it's having a positive impact, you got to find the ways to get that message in front of the parents. And a report card is something I can mostly guarantee you most parents look at however many times a year it comes out. So some thought to that, some thought to, we talked, I think a year or 2 years ago, we set up a committee to look at grading consistency across levels. I hope that's continued to move forward. I don't feel like we have heard anything about it in a while. So, and then the other thing we talked about last year was just whether it was vertically within the subject areas or horizontally within the grade levels, working toward more consistency on how people grade, what policies they have for late and incomplete work, what policy they have on do-overs and retests, and what standards our people are going to hold themselves to as far as making sure that Infinite Campus is a good, accurate reflection of where students stand. So, I'm not trying to rewrite your goals for you. Those are just things I would encourage you to.
Well, they're all intertwined.
Yeah.
They really are.
So we changed, you get into the weeds a little bit. Historically, it's been a vertical alignment structure. It sounds counterintuitive, but that does not make sense for this building. Because there's one person that does the job, it's tough to vertically align. Okay, who else is, my 9th grade teacher is my 9th grade teacher. I have one person in each position. And the inconsistencies you're talking about are obvious because you don't experience the educational system vertically, you experience it horizontally. Yep. So we've changed our entire organizational structure. Rather than having classic big school department heads, we went, my staff got sick of this, instead of going vertical, we went horizontal for a few reasons. One, there's the obvious consistent. If I have all the freshman teachers standing around talking, you can, what do you call it? What do you use? Thesis, opening statement, like, oh, wow, no wonder why kids are confused. We mean the same thing, but we're using different language. Oh, when are we all giving a test? Oh, that's probably not a good idea to give 5 tests to kids all on the same day. Additionally, I edict out and said we're going 70-30 across the board in terms of an assessment practice, formative and summative, across the building, and made every teacher provide their syllabi to me to verify that's what we're doing. We're going to have a meeting next week with our horizontal team leaders. I come up with a better name than that, for the conversation of, okay, I think gradebooks should be updated once a week. How can we ensure that this happens? Talk to your horizontal teammates, because with no disrespect, but when you have a middle school department head who doesn't have any interaction with your high school folks because of structure and content and just operation. Dealing with the sixth grader is very different than dealing with the senior. That didn't make sense, and continuing to beat our head against the wall, it just didn't happen. So I pulled the plug and said, we're going horizontal. So classic middle school, they do this anyway, right? Sixth grade team meets, seventh grade team, eighth grade. We made some very conscious structural changes to having a ninth grade team this year with dedicated time during the day. Similarly, we have some 10th grade, we have an 11th, 12th grade combination to address, we're not going to be perfect, but we're going to try to get through some of those experiences, because as a parent and a kid, you, again, don't experience it vertically until you get across the stage. You experience it horizontally every day. And if there are different things happening in your horizontal 8th grade courses, it jumps out real quick. Why can I do this in math but not in English? Why is history okay? Why isn't science? And that's what you experience as the kid. Not, well, the history department said this is what we're doing. Like, you don't care. Like, I'm here now, not there. So changing that structural organizational paradigm to really help them address that. Fingers crossed, it's going to be some of the work around curriculum. We're not going to address all of those for sure, but some of those are, in my opinion, pretty easy low-hanging fruit around consistent grade level based practices. And that's the hope of the horizontal teams.
Sounds good. And again, it's not a vision thing. To me, this is more at the level of the clean bathrooms.
Yeah. Yes, I agree.
This is nuts and bolts. Let's, not have wild inconsistencies across kids the same age doing things differently.
Doesn't make sense.
I do think, I can't speak to the high school level, I like that we're seeing collaboration and consistency in both building goals. But I can say, just from a few days of having a fifth grader, I know the fifth grade team is kind of the poster child for collaboration as a team. But in talking with some other families with fifth graders in different classes, they all had such a similar experience those first 5 days of school, which is great foreshadowing for what we hope every kid's going to have the same experience. But I think it was also really important for those children who maybe aren't in the same class as some of their friends, or were really hoping to get this teacher because they heard, from somebody that teacher does all these kinds of things. And so, it's being reinforced not only to the teachers that it's working, but to the students that, I'm in fifth grade and you're in fifth grade and you're in fifth grade, and we're all getting fifth grade individualized, but we're both having a great common experience. So I think that it's working at levels, and I think I'm glad it's well received at the high school too.
I apologize that I have to leave. My wife has to go to work tonight. Do you guys plan on going into non-public? I can open the library before I leave.
Yeah, would you? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Andy. All right, I think the next thing we had was we wanted to review our own goals quickly, talk about what progress we're making and what opportunities we see to continue moving that forward. And I apologize, so this was the version that Ellen had, and she specifically asked me to say, look at this and make sure that this is the most current version, and I specifically did not get to it.
So it's not the current version?
It may well be, I just can't swear that it is.
It's today's current version.
Ellen's pretty good at these things, so I
Yeah.
believe this is the current version, but should it not be, it's not Ellen's fault, it's my fault for not looking at it. So looking through these, does anybody have thoughts, questions, suggestions, reflections?
So number 4, we talked about having students come in. That's great. The website's had a lot of work done to it, which is fantastic. I do still think there's an opportunity for us to find other avenues to reach the public, but having a consistent message and someone to do that consistent messaging in different forms is maybe not something we can do right now.
So you do have these, the school board goals?
I don't have it open right now, I'm sorry.
All right, I'll make sure you get them.
It should be on the agenda.
Yep.
Can look on if you want.
Yeah, I had similar thoughts looking at it. I do like the work we've done on the website. I mean, that's a never-ending project. There will always be more to do with it as things change, but we've seen some real improvement over the past year.
Thank you.
Community engagement, I mean, just tonight when Sean was mentioning the open house at the elementary school, I thought, well, gee, we could set up a table unobtrusively and do what Gary and I did at the backyard
They
bash.
might really like pencils.
It's true.
Elementary
Pencils
school
and
kids
bookmarks
love
at open house.
pencils.
Yeah, that's where you could put all the pencils out.
I
We still have them, right?
I gave the pencils and bookmarks to Sean, actually, so he,
You better still have it.
yeah, well, I encouraged
That was an
him to make
expensive
the
bucket.
best use of them that he could, and
We
I
have to
also
order
told him
more?
he could keep the
Yeah,
bucket,
good
so.
The connection between Miss G's Nature Club, which hopefully we got in, we'll find out tomorrow, and the PTA group, the outdoor ed PTA group, I think is a great connection and shows that the school and the school system really wants to work with those parents. And then that also reminded me that there is the first PTA meeting of the elementary school year on Tuesday at 6:30. I'm going to go, so if anybody else
Again?
wants
I'll
to
put
also
it-
go as
I'll
well.
put it in my calendar.
Yeah, but anyway, I know Sean had to leave, but maybe you could just drop him a note and say, is that, does that mess with any? Does that, well, no. Again,
can
if he's
buy
given
more
away
pencils.
every pencil at this point, I'm thrilled. But, we'll buy
Just for
more,
those
we'll
who
buy
don't
more
know,
pencils.
we gave
I
away
think-
pencils at the backyard
on
bash.
the library.
Biscuit
I think, Sean, and frankly, Andy didn't mention it tonight, but there will also be some events here for open houses here at the junior, senior high as well. I think both of them would be happy to host you with that. So,
Ask us a
yeah.
question,
We have
get a
a
raffle
student
ticket.
here, our student representative could come up with some ideas too for us to get out into the community and say what's going on, if you have different venues that we wouldn't even know about, especially me.
We're not putting you on the spot. You
Yeah.
can take time and think about it.
Not
but that-
Snapchat, not Snapchat.
What's that?
It's just a goal we've set for
No
ourselves
ticket.
to interact with the community more because, again, back to my point earlier, 8 or 16 or however many people watch this at home is just not what we aspire to.
If I could just share two quick thoughts.
Yeah.
One that was an idea that was shared with me today at the conference I was at this morning. There is an entity out of UNH, the Carsey Institute, called New Hampshire Listens, and what they do, they facilitate community dialogues. And one of the things, they were the facilitators of this event, and they talked about looking for ways to get in and help schools develop dialogues and conversations with the community. Sometimes the challenge of doing it is to find the authentic opportunity to do it. And I know, like, standing in the hallway outside a basketball game, feeling like people were thinking, like, what are you selling there? Is it chocolate bar? It wasn't the best opportunity to engage that conversation. So they might be able to help. So I throw that out as something to think about, that they can host community events and you come and you're a part of it, just like everybody else. And then on the post-graduation student achievement survey stuff, I did have some conversation with our counselors, particularly Jody Callan and Leslie Robillard. They're very excited at the prospect of sitting down with people and talking about what they already do, because they do track postgraduate people. And so it isn't a heavy lift if we have questions that we want to ask, to be able to get that information out and get it back in a relative timeline. So if that's something that the board wanted to engage in, I'd be happy to set up a meeting with Jody and Leslie and just sit down and talk about what are some of the thoughts you have on how we can track post-graduation progress to see how kids are doing after they leave here.
Yeah, positively. I assume everyone agrees with.
Yeah, it'd be nice to find out what we're doing currently and
Yeah.
where we think it'd be nice to see expansion.
Actually, how about this? Why don't I talk to them about coming in and doing a presentation to the board on what they've collected in the past? And then maybe that will lead to a conversation moving forward? Okay.
Yeah, I think that'll work great. And yeah, centering student activities and achievement, I agree. Just the more, it brightens every one of these meetings, especially with the elementary school kids. I don't necessarily want to keep them here very late, but, it's always a good meeting when we have folks in. So I look forward to doing that with, I think we talked about trying to take one of our 2 meetings each month and,
Maybe
have some
them
student.
Towards the beginning of the agenda.
Yeah. Oh, yes, high on the agenda.
Have maybe guests at the front end.
Yeah.
Anything else on goals before we move on? Thank you. Budget process and timeline, it's one of the least pleasant parts of our job, but also the most, what the community tends to view as most important.
And there's
So-
really there's nothing new here.
Yep.
I just wanted to confirm, just for your edification, we're moving along. On this past Tuesday, just as the calendar says, we had a leadership meeting. It was, everybody's starting to create their budgets. What I need from you guys, hopefully tonight, is to tell me when you want to do the budget workshop, so I can get that scheduled, so that we can arrange that.
We do need to amend and adopt the draft calendar. It's September 4th, 2024, so we're a little behind on that one.
Oh, well, the date on the thing is right. It's the date,
It's the 27th, but just from last year.
All right, so what Todd had put on here, and I think it's at least directionally correct, is to shoot for something around that third week of October. The 16th, I believe I looked, and it is a Thursday, which I just don't know how practical. Lonnie, I'm assuming you probably can't get away from work, on a Thursday afternoon.
I mean, it depends on how much time. I can
Yeah, I
take
mean-
half a personal day, it depends on.
Because
what
the
our
other
time
thing
frame
we've
is.
done with these in the past is just pick a weekend morning.
Yep.
Like a Saturday morning, and we get together, have breakfast, go through the presentations. To me, everybody's a little bit out of their normal mindset, which actually sometimes gives you a better conversation than, and Sawyer, by the way, you perfectly welcome to come, but not required.
It's like, wait a minute, they told me this is going to be a fast meeting?
Yeah. So how are people feeling about, like, let's say you started the Sunday before the 16th and the Saturday, between there and the Saturday after, within that week, what are people seeing in their schedules?
I just Lonnie just pointed out something, maybe we should just iterate or reiterate to Sawyer. We realize student rep has lots of other things they need to be doing, so you can leave at any time you want to, really. Thank you. You're not gonna,
You won't offend us.
you'll offend her, but you won't offend the rest of us.
Just don't walk away with your microphone, because that really annoys me. I made that mistake once.
Well, the 13th is a holiday, right?
I believe you are
It
correct.
says Columbus Day, but I thought it was Indigenous Peoples Day.
Indigenous People Day.
A law changed. We can't
Doesn't
really
mean
call
I
it
have to say.
indigenous. We can locally call it indigenous people, but we can't refer to it that way by the law.
And I believe, if this is correct, we have a regularly scheduled school board meeting on the 16th.
Yeah.
I believe that, that would be the third
Yep.
Thursday. Yep.
So, again, I pose the question to the group, as between the 12th and the 18th, and if we can't find a date that works there, we can look at the following week, I suppose, but
Is a weekend the best, or is a Saturday morning?
it
Or-
would, I'll say it would be my preference, but only mine, so if it doesn't work for other people, then we'll sort something out.
Yeah, we've done it multiple ways. We've done a Saturday, we've done a morning, like a Thursday morning. And we've also done, I think one year we repurposed the second October
Right.
school board meeting to be a budget workshop.
I would prefer a weekend morning. I just think it has a better vibe. I won't be rushing to get from one place to another. But I don't have a preference on whether or not it's Saturday or Sunday. So if people have conflicts, I think those should be the,
I would lean toward a Saturday morning, I guess.
Okay? Gary?
I will make myself available when the board needs me.
All right, so Saturday morning, the 18th, does anybody have a conflict with that?
Not right now.
All right, let's pencil that in for the budget workshop. At least the past couple of years, we've been able to get through what we need to get through in 3-4 hours at worst. So I don't expect that to be wildly different, particularly, again, I think as we head up to that, it's certainly worth it for everyone to go through that level service budget, not because that's where we expect to end up, but just because the things that are going to be the big topics of conversation are going to jump off the page at you pretty easily if you go through that. So, we really can't end up there for all the obvious reasons, but I think you'll come prepared to think about the right things if you go through that.
9 o'clock?
9?
Usually what we've done is serve breakfast, so how about we serve breakfast starting at 8:30 with the idea of starting by 9?
I'll make sure I'm here on time this time.
All right, sounds good. I'm going to violate the personal device
8:30?
policy, just,
I did as well to check my calendar.
Yep.
We're outside the
8:30
bells.
on the 18th, that's a good point.
My
Thank
kids are
you,
away
Jeff.
that weekend, so if I come in a little bleary-eyed at 8:30, just saying. Kidding, my bedtime's like 8:15. It's actually when my timer goes up.
Judgment free zone. Psychologically safe space.
Except for you.
I'm just going to say,
You already took a dig at me. Poor Sawyer's afraid of me now. We have to
all right,
make our own
and
fun.
we
don't
can
have
ask
to-
Ellen to just send out an invite.
Yep, we'll
Okay.
get that. I'll have her confirm everything
Splendid.
and then send out the invite and probably send out breakfast orders as well.
Sounds good. All right. We, according to this, don't have donations to acknowledge this week. All right. Can't win them all. So, but again, thank you to everyone who regularly donates. We appreciate it. Action items. I would accept a motion to approve the minutes from our August 21st public and non-public meetings.
I move to approve those minutes.
Thank you, Jeff. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lonnie. Did anyone see anything looking through the minutes that needs editing or additions, deletions? I didn't personally.
Silly formatting thing, down in the action items where people's names are bolded for having made a motion or seconded motions. Lonnie and I both had our names left off the bold for some of our seconds.
You deserve
So-
bold. You deserve to be bold. Yes.
I went looking, so I found something.
That comes your third year in on the board, you get to.
Yeah.
I thought it was just because you had already done it
see it
beforehand.
I'm shocked I didn't notice it. I always admire Ellen's
Consistency.
Yes.
I was looking out for us.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I do deserve
Any
bold.
other edits?
None. Thank you, Ellen.
Yes, thank you, Ellen. So
thank you.
with the formatting thus, or
Oh, I did want to, not related to the minute, well, in the minutes last time, I did ask about the calendar in the handbook, having that wrong highlighted day. So I just wanted to check and make sure that that got fixed.
It has not,
Okay.
but you tell me enough times that it's going to get done.
Okay. All right, so as amended for correct formatting, all those in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Elementary handbook.
This end of the table, you guys on board?
Aye. Sorry.
Thank you. We're unanimous, 5-0. Who has the manifest?
I move we approve the manifest for September 4th, 2025, in total amount of $1,203,355.24.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Kathy. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We are unanimous. We have some nominations for fall coaches. Todd, do you want to quickly?
Yeah, actually, it's kind of exciting because I don't know if you when we opened school, we were really struggling to get our sub-varsity coaches. And Jamie, magically, people appeared at the last minute. So we have a JV boys coach, Chris Haddam, has stepped up to do it. Middle school boys soccer, Scott Godfrey. Middle school cross-country assistant, Jen Ganley. And although it's not listed here, Nicole Sanborn, who had originally planned to move to just be the JV girls coach, is also going to do the middle school girls. So that's been filled with somebody who's already been doing it. So I think all of our positions are filled and are going for it.
That's soccer that she's coaching, right?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. Yes,
All
soccer.
right,
Yeah.
thanks. So I'd accept a motion to approve these candidates for the coaching positions.
So moved.
Thank you, Lonnie. Second. Thank you, Jeff. And huge thanks to the people who are stepping up and taking on these positions. It obviously means a lot to the kids to be able to play. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are unanimous, 5-0. And we have, I believe, someone requesting time off.
Yeah, this is one of those idiosyncrasies. We have one collective bargaining agreement, which we're going to change. It's up for discussion. The NSSA para contract, for anybody requesting unpaid time off, the board has to approve it. I don't have to do it for anybody else, but because it's in the contract, there are 2 paras who requested unpaid time off over the course of the fall, and I would ask your permission to grant that to them. And I promise we're going to work to change that in the contract.
I move we approve the 2 paraprofessional unpaid time off requests.
Motion by Gary, second by Lonnie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are unanimous, 5-0. We do not, unless somebody on the board has something in particular, have a need for a non-public meeting tonight. But we do have a non-meeting after to get an update on negotiations for the Newmarket Support Staff Association collective bargaining agreement. So unless somebody has something they'd like to go into non-public to discuss, and I'm seeing none, I'd accept a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Thank you, Jeff.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Kathy. All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Channel 8, we're